Hello, Twin Cities. We are back today from the Coastal Seafoods Test Kitchen, and we have some cool stuff to talk about today. Today we're going to be talking about some really beautiful oysters and all about how you can help support us, support Special Olympics Minnesota. So we've got some cool things going on this weekend. We are going to be doing and participating in this year's Polar Plunge down at Makaska, which should be a lot of fun. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, the Polar Plunge is an event designed to help raise money for Special Olympics Minnesota. And basically, what it is they cut out a giant hole in the ice and people jump into the frozen lake. Pretty simple, but should be a lot of fun. And we've got a lot of people from our staff, especially on our wholesale side for Fortune Fish, who are going to be jumping. So we're looking forward to that. Definitely pay attention, or if you're in the area, come on down to the lake, check it out, and you can see what it's all about for yourself. We've also got, if you were interested in donating to our team, we've got a link up on our website, coastalseafoods.com, where you can go and donate to the team directly. Or we've got a bunch of cool other things in the store to talk about, including these gorgeous Polar Plunge oysters. Of course, for the weekend, we brought these in. These are a great oyster, super delicious, classic East Coast oyster, perfect for this time of year. And the proceeds from these oysters are actually going to go to support our team, the Polar Plunge, and of course Special Olympics Minnesota. So you can come in, stock up on these, and get yourself some oysters and help raise money for the Special Olympics. That simple. Also, we've got these, which are really beautiful oyster knives from our friends down at Toadfish. These are great oyster knives. We'll have these on sale for $20 each. Now these are a special knife made just for this event. So this is a limited edition oyster knife, and they're absolutely beautiful. Let me show you here what we're talking about. It's a really beautiful knife, and you can see it's got Toadfish engraved on the blade, and when you flip it over, it's got #PlungeMN, which is the official hashtag for the event. So if you're interested in following along online, #PlungeMN is what we're looking for. I'll show you here, Facebook. We've got the hashtag. Oh, it's kind of hard to read. There it is. #PlungeMN. On the other side, beautiful Toadfish logo. This is a great knife. It's got a little bit of a curvature down at the end. It's got a little bit of a blade. So this is a great sturdy oyster knife, perfect for shucking loads of oysters, which we're gonna do right now, of course. Because if you can't shuck an oyster, there's no point in buying any oysters. So we're gonna show you how to do it. I've got a few of these beautiful Polar Plunges here. And there's a few things you need when you're doing oysters. One, you need oysters, which we got. Two, you want to make sure your oysters are rinsed pretty thoroughly. If there's any sand or extra grit or kind of shell fragments hanging out, those can get into the oyster when you're shucking, so you want to clean it as good as possible. And you want to identify the different parts of the oysters. So oysters generally have a couple parts that you want to look for. There's the top flat part, there's the bottom or the cup, and then there's the hinge where the shell comes together at the end, and this is where that opens. So we've got the top, we've got the cup, and we've got the hinge. Now the hinge is generally speaking where your knife is going to go. So when you're looking at your oysters, you want to kind of try to identify exactly where that hinge is and if there's any good spots for the knife to go in. So right now, you can see there's kind of this space here in the hinge where the knife wants to go naturally. So that's going to be our starting point. So pretty slick, pretty easy. And so we've got our oyster parts identified, the top, the cup, and the hinge. We know where our oyster wants to go. We've got our knife. When shucking oysters, make sure you're using the right tools. Do not be doing this with a butter knife. Do not be doing this with a regular chef's knife. Do not be doing this with a screwdriver. Don't be trying to use the claw of a hammer. I've seen people try a lot of different things. Don't do it. That is how you get hurt. Make sure you're using an oyster knife. Again, we have them available for sale. You can come in, pick one up. We've got a few different ones. Again, this one on feature this week, so definitely worth it. The other thing that you're going to want to make sure that you have is a towel. This is going to help keep your hands safe. It's going to help keep the oyster sturdy. Don't shuck oysters without one. That's, again, how you wind up stabbing yourself, and I highly recommend against that. It's not very fun. The oyster knives are pretty dull, but some of them have a point, and it can cause some damage, so you have to be very, very careful. So what we're going to do, we're going to fold our little tea towel, and I'm going to put the oyster cup side down into the towel, and I'm going to cover it with the top. So I've got this folded over a few times, which is going to help give me a real sturdy grip on the towel. I've also got, you can see underneath my cutting board, this is a damp towel, and this is going to help keep my board from slipping all over the place, keeps it nice and sturdy, so I'm not going to slip. Again, you want to try to cut down on any sort of slippage as best as possible. So I've got my oyster nice and nestled in my towel, and I've got the hinge outwards. So where I want my knife to go is facing out, which is exactly right. So I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to put it in to where it wants to go. Again, sometimes it's a little bit harder to identify, so you got to look around a little bit. But I'm going to get that oyster in there. Now, when you're shucking oysters, we always talk about this in our oyster classes. If you've taken the classes, you know, it's not about stabbing the oyster. You're not trying to stab this knife into the shell. This is a lot more like trying to open a paint can or like a tin of varnish. You're really just trying to work that shell until it pops free and open, which is pretty easy to do. Again, knife goes in, and we're just going to go kind of up and down. Otherwise, sometimes we'll work it a little bit side to side as well. And we're just going to kind of gently go until that shell decides to open. I'm putting almost no pressure on the oyster this way. Again, I'm not trying to stab it. I'm trying to open it like a paint can. And you can see it comes right open. So very, very easy. So now our shell is open, which is good. So I'm going to turn my knife at a 90-degree angle, and then I'm just going to drag that knife along the top of that oyster shell to cut through the abductor muscle. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So you can see this is where the abductor was, and that's what we just cut through. Right there, and you can see on the top of the oyster there, that white spot, that is also the abductor muscle and what we cut through. So now on the bottom, there is another one of those muscles that we're going to have to cut through in a minute. But first what we want to do is you want to the oyster has a tendency to stick around the edges. It's got this thing called a skirt, and we're just going to kind of pull that down and away. Because the idea is to have the oyster completely free of the shell. And once we've got that done, we're going to just take our knife again and just drag through the bottom of the oyster. And now our oyster is completely free. So we could go ahead and eat this just like this, but when you get them in the restaurant, they actually flip them over because the beautiful presentation side is actually on the underneath, on the bottom of the oyster. So this is a perfect restaurant-ready oyster. Now I don't want to tip it too much because you want to keep all that juice and that oyster liquor inside. That is the best part. So there, it's a beautiful oyster. So now we've got our first oyster shucked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some kosher salt here. This is just some coarse salt, and I'm going to put it on our little platter here. Just like so. Now this is a good way to help keep your oysters from falling over. You don't need a ton of salt, just a little. Now a lot of times you'll see this done with ice, which is, you could certainly use chipped ice for this, but ice tends to melt. So salt works pretty well for if you're going to be doing a few, arranging a nice platter for your guests. It's just a nice little trick. So I'm going to open a few more of these here. And again, Pretty easy. Knife goes in to the hinge, and I'm just going to kind of work it back and forth until that shell starts to open. Sometimes it breaks a little bit, which is fine. And open. Cut that free. Disregard the shell. If you see any shell fragments or bits of dirt in there, go ahead and remove them with your knife. And we've got another oyster free. And these are beautiful, beautiful oysters, super delicious. Pretty easy to shuck too. Sometimes oysters can be tricky. Just depends on the variety, where they're from. Oh, this whole top kind of shelled off like this. And, which again happens sometimes. Just gonna rock it up and down until it pops free. We've got here. This time a little piece of the shell stuck behind. Again, that happens. Just remove it and flip. So one of the questions we get a lot about oysters, especially people who come in and get blue points, is we'll get a phone call and people will say, my oyster has crabs. Because blue points a lot of times have what's called these little pea crabs in them. And pea crabs are very natural. It's kind of the sign of a healthy oyster. So if you are opening your oysters and you see a little crab in there, it's not a big deal. Do not panic. You can just disregard the oyster. Or not the oyster. Keep the oyster. The oyster is fine. Eat that. But you can just get rid of the crab. Sometimes they are actually considered to be good luck. So consider yourself lucky. You got a free crab with your oyster. But we do get a lot of phone calls on those. Again, it's not really an issue. And these ones, these beautiful Polar Plunges, don't seem to have that issue, which is totally fine. But these are nice. They've got very plump meats. So, now your oysters are all free. You've got them all plattered up, looking absolutely beautiful here. So let's give you a little show. Just this beautiful platter of oysters. Very simple to do. Again, you saw, it took me about a minute to do this whole platter. Nothing difficult. And this is perfect snack. So you could go ahead and eat these as is. Excuse me. By picking up the oyster and just tipping it back. Very easy to do. Once you've got it free from the shell, no problem. In terms of condiments, you could use our Coastal Seafoods cocktail sauce. Those go great with these. A little lemon juice is nice. Or you can use what's called a mignonette, which is a type of vinegar-based sauce. Very traditional with oysters. And we've got two varieties here that we sell in store. We make these in-house. One is a very classic mignonette made with champagne vinegar, shallots, and cracked black pepper. It kind of marinates and infuses together, becomes very nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a little bit of this and put this on one of the oysters. Get a few of those shallots in there. Very nice. And the other one we've got is a little bit more of a experimental mignonette that we make. Again, champagne vinegar, but this one has the addition of a smoked shoyu in there. So it's got a little bit of a smokiness and a little bit of an additional salty level, which is nice. I like this particularly for West Coast oysters, but also works very, very nice for these. So we've got these available in store. You dress them very simply and chew. So good. Got a piece of shell. That vinegar pairs very, very nicely with the oyster, and just really helps kind of some of that sweetness pop. Super, super good. Highly recommend. All available in the shop this weekend. Oysters. Proceed of those sales go to help support Polar Plunge and Special Olympics Minnesota. Same with these gorgeous knives. Again, definitely come in, check these out. We do have some other things available this weekend that I want to talk about too. We've also got a really beautiful Atlantic salmon on feature this week. If you get the newsletter, you probably saw that for $11.99 a pound. It's just a beautiful Atlantic salmon, pretty simple, really great. So you can come on in, load up on that, available all week long. And we've got some salmon videos available, so if you're looking for ideas, things like that, or recipes, we've got a bunch on coastalseafoods.com, and on our YouTube page we've got plenty of other videos with salmon cookery, so check that out. But yeah, otherwise we hope to kind of see you this weekend. Definitely come out to the Polar Plunge if you can. We're hoping for another nice beautiful weekend like we've had the past few weekends, just for our jumpers' sake. And yeah, and the oysters, come down, check those out, load up on some Polar Plunge oysters, come on down to the Polar Plunge, watch our people get really cold in the very cold water, and then go home, eat some oysters, and enjoy your weekend. Pretty simple. Oh, looks like maybe we have a question here. Let's check it out. Oh, nice. If you wanted a little bit of a better demo also, we do have a video on our YouTube page that kind of has a up-close walkthrough on how to shuck an oyster. So you can certainly go and watch that if you need to review a few times. It's shorter, you get right to it, it walks you through. It's kind of silly video. We had a lot of fun making that a while ago, so definitely check it out. Or if you're in the store buying oysters, we'll generally walk you through as well. If you have questions on how to do it, just ask the fishmongers and they'll walk you through the process. It's not hard. Once you get the hang of it is really the thing. It's all about, we always tell our people in classes, it's all about developing that feel. Once you feel that shell pop, you'll remember that feeling and you'll go through and you'll know what you're looking for from that point on. So again, very easy to do once you get the hang of it. So come on in, pick up some Polar Plunge oysters, grab some mignonettes, grab an oyster knife, and have yourself an awesome weekend. Or week. We've got them all week long, so they'll be here and available. These are also available if anybody you know, or if you're watching from a restaurant. These are available through our wholesale site as well, so you can put these on your menus as a way to help raise money for Special Olympics. So definitely you can call any of your sales reps, check that out. Or if you want to just come in and buy them from yourself, you can come into the store, pick some up, and yeah. Otherwise, that's all there is to it. If you have any other questions, things like that, feel free to send me a message or put a comment, and we will get to those as soon as we can. Otherwise, have a great week. We will talk to you soon.